I'm still really interested in this your spirituality side of things. And I'll just briefly come back to with this question in the sense that, do you see an alignment between the amount of practice, and I'll call it prayer or the chanting or the meditation? Do you see some alignment with that, the intensity or the frequency of that practice versus your, how do I say, your emotional health or your physical health, or your or the amount of success, whether that be career or personal growth? Is that distinct, or is it? I'm curious what your thoughts are on that aspect.
So when you say like duration of practice, like how long I've been practicing for?
Oh, just any sort of correlation, and sort of where I'm coming from is often I'll hear people, and this includes a lot of celebrities out there, where meditation is definitely talked about and hyped about a lot in society today. What's that form of meditation called? Is it the tantric? The one that
isn't tantric like for sex?
Pardon me.
I don't know. I thought
no. There's a meditation way, like it's Jerry Seinfeld and all these other guys are into it. But yeah, but just to bring back, like, whether it doesn't have, it can be anything, whether it's intensity, frequency, or how sincerely you're into it, or whatever it is. Do you see some sort of correlation there, or not?
There's definitely a correlation. But I think the act of trying to do it or to learn to do it in of itself is creating a huge cause for your life to move in that direction. Like in that direction, meaning like that direction of whatever it is that you're trying to challenge or overcome or feel or whatever that is. And I say that because like in Buddhism, at least we say there's 3 bases of our practice. It's faith, practice, and study.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So in order to develop faith in this kind of belief in yourself, in this Buddha nature, you need to practice and study. Practice is actually chant, right? And, go through the different activities so that you can develop and grow spiritually. And then, study is actually studying the different teachings from Nichiren Daishonin. So you can try to deepen your understanding of this faith, right? So there's kind of like this piece. So I've met a lot of people who like, they'll start practicing in Buddhism and, they'll chant and they'll get these incredible benefits. Benefits are just like another term for these good things that happen to them, or things change in the way they want. It's like, it's great. Yeah. It's like actual proof. At the same time, I've seen those people also get very fanatical without really kind of deepening their understanding of the practice. It's just like, yeah, this is great. And then they just drop off.
Right.
That's it. Right? It's like, you satisfy something and you're done. But to be able to live a philosophy, to live like Buddhism, it takes time and perseverance and, persistence, because it's a practice. Right? It's like, say, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to get big muscles, so I'm going to work out really hard today, like for 8 hours until my muscles are bulging and my muscles tear, and like, that's A, not realistic, and, B, if you did that, you'd probably hurt yourself, right? Any type of practice in our own life. I mean, you were talking about rituals, my daily rituals, what are they? Well, at some point those rituals had to start, right? Without that repetition and that practice of developing, for me, like my morning prayers, or even brushing your teeth when you're a kid, right? You didn't brush your teeth all the time, but through that consistency and that practice, then you started making that into a good habit that you do now as a ritual. So in terms of meditation, or in the case of my practice, it takes time to develop a consistency, but that's okay, because sometimes we're consistent, sometimes we're not. Hey, that's life, and we're people. Kind of like, sometimes I try to get to work all the time, or I try to sleep 6 hours a day every day, but sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. That's life. It's okay. Just get back on and try to get back to your routine. So in that sense, because we call, our Buddhism a practice, the idea is that you're consistently working on it. There's no end because there's no end to our lives, right? Like we always want to continue growing and developing. There's no like, all right, that's it, I'm done, I'm happy. At least in my perspective, life is continuously developing, and there's always going to be new challenges or opportunities or obstacles that we can overcome to grow more. Our life, the way I see it, our capacities or our abilities as humans, as people, it's limitless. There's nothing we can't do. So we can always continuously improve or continuously grow. But again, that's just my perspective.
This is so interesting. You know, I'd love to talk more about this stuff with you, whether that be just on a personal level or we could do another special on Buddhism or but I just want to ask this question just before we close this off. If I was to flip the question and say, how do you think your life would be different if you didn't practice the Buddhism that you practice? Just obviously it's speculation, but what do you think would be different for you?
Yeah, I think there's a clear pivot point in my life when I got into it and like sincerely, like of my own, volition said, okay, I want to do this, or I'm going to try it, versus I really don't give any, I don't care.
Yep.
So when I was in New York for college, I pretty much wasn't practicing until like, stressful situations came up where it's like, oh no, I got to test tomorrow else. I'd go to like the
temple?
The fire escape. Emergency fire. And I'd like chant there quietly because because I felt awkward. Like I was too ashamed to talk about it in front of my roommates.
Yep.
But I think towards my 4 years, I wasn't really practicing, going out to activities or meeting other members. And so I think at that point, I can imagine my life, I was all about trying to buy nicer clothes so that I can look more fashionable. Nothing wrong with that. I was all about like, where can I get, the highest paying job? Nothing wrong with that. But, to a certain degree, everything was very external. It was for show. And I had this friend of mine, this girl back then, she would always say this, and it totally struck me in it for another time. But like, there's a point when I hit like total depression or like I was depressed for like maybe 8-9 months, and I just wanted I was thinking of suicide and all this other stuff.
My God.
But that point, this girl, she told me like way before that, she's like, Justin, you can be real. Like, what are you talking about? Like, I am real. Like, she's like, no, like, you can be real with me. It's okay. And I totally didn't understand her. And it took like 10 years later for me to like really understand what she meant. And so I can easily see myself at that point, when I was towards graduating my undergrad the first time around, just becoming this very superficial, shallow guy, just probably sleeping around and not caring about, what the after effect was of that, and drinking, going crazy every weekend, having incredible, probably credit card debts too, because I was pretty bad at that point, versus kind of the person I am today. And even though I went through so many struggles and painful, like, life events through, after that, kind of pivoting and going back to California, going to that school that I mentioned that, and I had my parents pressured me to go to a lot. Actually, it's so funny. I had a good friend who I met, towards the end of my high school years, who went to that school too. So we're about the same age. The second undergrad that I talked about before.
To the Soka?
Yeah. And so he was like, when we met, he's like, hey, Justin. He was so excited.
Wow.
I requested to be roommates with this guy because I knew him. And he's like, man, this is awesome. We're going to be roommates. I was like, no. Actually, I requested to be roommates with you. Like, what? Yeah, because I don't think I could really put up with anybody else. and like, after like, for the first 3 months, he's like, man, what happened to you? You became a dick. He became a dick in the past 3 years. 4 years. I don't know what New York did to you, but man, you're an asshole. I was like, I don't give a fuck. don't bother me.
Yeah.
So I
Nice.
could totally see the difference in my life trajectory at that point.
Right. So you're saying that pivotal moment happened while you attended Soka?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it kind of started with my parents, again, my parents who drove me crazy at the time, who I didn't really feel like, my dad's such a great guy or my mom's so wonderful. It felt more like, I can't believe I'm doing this for my dad. I can't believe, my mom is backing him on this. What the hell kind of thing. But they literally pulled like that path and said, just go. Like, you don't even realize like what's going on in your life. Just go here. This will be a lot better for you. You'll see. That's kind of what was going on in their head, I'm sure.
Wow. So obviously there's a clear sort of transition. Can I call it pre-Soka and post?
Oh yeah. That's actually my roommate from New York. He told me after my first year at this university, he was like, I don't know what the hell happened to you or what's going on with you, but the Justin, I was like, don't be offended by this. Like, this isn't meant to be offended at all. But the Justin I knew from New York and the Justin from 1 year at this school, Soka, like, is completely different.
Wow.
The Justin, the one that, the Justin I lived with in New York, he was great. He was a lot of fun. I love him. I mean, he's my best friend, yada, yada, yada. But this Justin from Soka, after 1 year, you're like, you're so much better. I was like, oh, was I that bad?
Whoa. Hang on, so then the New York Justin, was that much different to pre-New York Justin?
Pre-New York Justin was like a little idiot high school kid who didn't know anything.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's weird. Because I'm just curious whether it was New York that was the influence for New York Justin, let's say, or if it was just a progression of living that particular lifestyle.
I'm pretty sure it's living that lifestyle, and just me being from California, going to New York, being not, just trying to embrace everything I could about New York, and not to say New Yorkers are bad people or anything, but come on, New Yorkers are dicks, right? No offense to any New Yorkers, I'm kidding. I mean, but people are very straightforward. They say it as it is, and I love that about New Yorkers. That lifestyle, making money just to live there. Like, yeah, that's fine. I don't care. I'll live in a tiny little apartment and share it with people for the rest of my life in New York, and go out Fridays and Saturdays and have a great time and wear overpriced clothing that I probably don't need to be running my credit card up with.